fools and sages defend their cages. Nothing to win, nowhere to run. Living under the gun.
Can you see my JR shirt?
Oh.
Hey, JR.
So, like, do you want me to call you JR or like whatever?
Well, I was going to go into this as you asked me, but since we're into it now, my christened name is Paul Wilbur Jr. Now, when I did my first CD in 2002, I did it under Paul Wilbur. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now, it turns out there's a guy named Paul Wilbur that does religious music. And he had about 12 albums out already before I even did this one. So when this went into iTunes, it went into the religious category. So nobody bought any of it because they didn't like Paul Wilbur, this Paul Wilbur, because they wanted the other Paul Wilbur. So anyway, my Christian name is Paul H. Wilbur Jr. So then when I made my second CD, this one right here, I said, well, I think I'll change it to J.R. Wilbur. And that way I'll be not him.
Yeah.
So that's where I come from.
Okay, so.
But I use it for all musical endeavors.
Yes. So Paul's fine.
Okay.
Whatever you want me.
Oh,
I'll call you JR Paul. I'll let the audience decide. Okay. Well, welcome to my discussion with J.R. Wilbur, also known as Paul Wilbur. He's an independent musician. He's not to be confused with the Paul Wilbur musician, Christian musician. He's an independent artist, and I helped him get on Modern Retro Radio when we had our Indie Artist Weekend. And he released how many albums?
2 CDs and a vinyl.
2 CDs and a vinyl. So it's.
Hold up my vinyl. I've got it.
So what were those called?
First one was under Paul Wilbur, and that was called Six Pack Willie, which is that. The second one was called Think, which was my kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a political in a way, but I didn't, not Democrat, Republican political. I got a little too political on it, I think. Anyway, it's this one. Think is the name of it by J.R. Wilbur. And so those didn't sell. So I went out and I was reading a thing saying, vinyl is making a comeback. Vinyls are going to be selling like crazy, like what, So I went and made a vinyl, and it's this one.
Yeah.
That's the latest one.
And that's the one you sent me, and I love that one.
Great, I'm glad you did.
Do you have those other 2 CDs that you can send copies of, or you just?
I only have the 2 copies. Would you want them?
I mean, you can always. I know you're not tech savvy, but you could record them also, or rip them from the.
I might be able to get someone to make a copy, CD copies, from you. And if you want them, I'll do that. Oddly enough, since we're talking about that, I didn't have, I got done with all the copies of this one. And wait a minute, it wasn't that one, it was this one. And somebody was selling these online. I didn't have any anymore. So I bought 2 of these. I actually bought this from somebody else online that's selling them. I don't have any more. I don't get anything from that. So I don't, this whole idea of the internet and music just blows away people. Well, maybe not my age, just people that are more tech savvy, I'm sure, but it's just such a different world now. And I think you see people like Neil Young and David Crosby and Dylan selling off their catalogs. And then they're not young men anymore. But I think that's part of it. I think people just don't want to deal with it anymore. If you Google J.R. Wilbur, there's a thing that will come up, Spotify. Spotify has this, and you can play those. But I don't get anything from that. I hit some button on CD Baby that said I could share it, and I didn't know what that meant. So I did that, and it's on Spotify, but I never get a nickel from this. Hi, CD Baby.
Well, like you should. I wonder if there's a way to find out how to get it monetized directly to you, because
Well, maybe they're not even downloading that much of it. I don't know. What happened was when I first did it, for the first couple of years, every now and again, I would get a check for $24, $25. So maybe it's just not being played. That might be it. So I shouldn't give too hard a slap to CD Baby, because I don't want them to sue me. Okay. But
Yeah.
if you Google J.R. Wilbur, the Spotify thing comes up for this one, and you could play that for free.
Mhm.
And also, the most important thing is my Reverb Nation link comes up. If you
Yeah.
Google it, and so the people listening to this now, if they want to hear anything off of this,
Mhm.
they can go to my Reverb Nation link.
Yeah.
Just get it from Google, J.R. Wilbur.
Yeah,
And,
I'll have the link in the description when I've edited it all.
Haley, you're all right.
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
So how did you start playing music? Did you just always love it?
Well, kind of. When I was a kid, my mother used to play. She had a radio in the kitchen, and when I would go out there, she loved music, so she would have stuff on. And the first, I'm trying to get my face a little closer here. The first thing I remember is the Everly Brothers. I liked harmony right away, and I said to my mother, I think, what's that? She said, that's the Everlys. I said, what's an Everly? She said, they're brothers, the Everly Brothers. Oh, I was a little kid,
Yeah.
So then as time went on, I always loved music. But the most significant thing that happened was in a lot of people's lives that are my age, the Beatles on Ed Sullivan.
Mm.
I saw the Beatles and I said, I want to do that. I want to be that. And millions of other kids did at the same time, because guitar sales went up about 75% like the next week. Everybody wanted to be a Beatle. But it wasn't just that. It wasn't just that, just to be associated with something like that. But the music was, they were great entertainers, but the music itself was so good and the harmonies were so good. Harmonies always got me.
Yeah, the Everly Brothers were one of the best for harmonies, and then like such beautiful sounds.
Really, oddly enough, as a kid, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones came out at the same time.
Yeah.
So most people either like the Beatles or they like the Rolling Stones, but I was the odd duck that liked both, because I like rhythm and blues and that, but I also love harmonies.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like, and still do to this day, I still like the Stones.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm appreciating the Rolling Stones more now. I didn't used to as much. I mean, I always have liked, 60s and 70s music, but it was like, of course my dad felt the same way too, but now I think he's appreciating them like a little bit more. He's always a Beatles guy.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's the thing. Beatles fans would come, Stones, and the Stones fan, hey, those Beatles. But it was two completely different things, but they were both great. The thing about the Stones is you got to say to yourself, they've been at it since 1963 or something. They're still a band. Try to be a band for 60 years, and
they're still alive after the drugs, like all those years.
Yeah. I don't know what Keith Richards has taken, but I want some.
Like, how are they still functioning? Like, the one guy, I guess, I don't know if he took any drugs. I mean, he kind of was like more conservative dressed.
Yeah.
I forget what is
Charlie Watts, the drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the rest of them are just like, I don't know, they're wax figures at this point, like, because of they're so like they still look high, to be honest, but it's like, how are they still living? I mean, they're not even that old, really. They're not old.
But they're getting up there.
I mean, obviously back in the day, people that age didn't tour anymore. I mean, I think it's better now that like people that are, you know, even 80 years old are still, you know, like Paul McCartney is almost 80 years old. Like he's still making music. Tony Bennett, 90 actually he's 95, isn't he? I think he was still touring. He just, you know, decided to end it now. Like people didn't used to do that. I mean, of course, a lot of people didn't used to live that long either. So
Interesting point about Charlie Watts is he just turned 80 and they had to, I don't know exactly what he had, but they had to take him off the tour because he had some medical problem. And he's like the oldest guy in the band, but he's the one that couldn't go on the tour. The rest of them are still chugging along. As far as the drugs of that time period, the 1960s, early 70s was it was just sort of just coming into fashion, like, you know, and a lot of bands were doing things that they don't do now. I imagine, you know, I don't think the Rolling Stones are doing what they did when they were 20, 25.
But the effects, I think, you know, because like Ozzy Osbourne, for instance, is like the man can't even speak properly. Like, I think that's, yeah. It's just like mumbling. It's like, it's like, what are you saying? I mean, I know he also has like, I think he also has like mental health issues. I mean, he had other issues besides, you know, the drugs. So
I wasn't a big follower of him. I didn't dislike him, but I used to follow the show that he was on with him and his wife, and that was kind of interesting. Well, I want to say one other thing about the Stones. I know that Ronnie Wood, the guitarist, quit booze and everything else. I don't know what the rest of them are doing these days, but I imagine a lot of people that are like my age and a bit older have quit a bunch of stuff at this stage of their life, you know?
Yeah.
Still love you, Stones.
Let's hope so. We want them.
I'd rather have his friends than enemies, so yes.
Yeah.
So go on, you had other questions.
So you wanted to pick up a guitar and you started, how old were you again? You started playing that?
My buddy, my best buddy, who's still my best buddy, who's one of the people in that first picture that I showed you of a band called The Trees. That was our first band.
Yeah.
We were in that about age 17 or 18. And his dad was a club musician in a band that played local clubs. And, you know, in Lowell, Massachusetts, where I'm from originally. And so he started getting guitar lessons from his dad. And he went and bought himself. We were not rich people, either my friend or myself. We were from poor families. So he worked in a diner for like 50 cents an hour and to get the money to buy a guitar for himself. And he bought it. And his dad started teaching him guitar. And so anytime he would put it down to go do anything, I would pick it up. And he would yell at me, "Put that down, I don't want you talking about it." So eventually I got my own guitar somehow. And we had the exact same guitars, Tiesco Del Rey's. They were terrible guitars. They were old, cheap, but they had 4 pickups. They had 4 pickups. So we thought, oh, we're cool. That'll make us play better. But it didn't. So I started with him, and he started at about age 50. I think he got his guitar when he was 15 or 16. And then I learned on his guitar for that year. And then around that, I would say I could play a few songs at 16 or 17. So that's kind of when I started playing.
And then how long did it take before you wanted to like make your own record?
Well, it was funny circumstances. We had this band called The Trees, and we were 18 years old. We thought that band was going to be just like the Beatles and go off, but it didn't. So we got little small gigs around town and stuff. And then there was a draft on at that time. People were getting drafted. And so I joined the Army to avoid getting drafted. after the band broke up. We just, bands break up, and that broke up for reasons I don't want to go into at the time. But anyway, at this time, I went into the Army, and when I came back out, the music was like 3 years later, the music was all different, it seemed, I had heard this music all the time that I was in the Army, but I wasn't doing anything with a guitar because I was in the Army.
Yeah.
But I came out of the Army, and I ran across another friend, made friends with a guy who was a great guitarist. He could play Jimi Hendrix and stuff, So I tried a couple of bands with him that didn't work out. But in that period, I started writing down stuff, and my song, Ain't It Hard, the blues song, kind of came out of that period. So I started, I was good at writing. I used to get A's in English in school, so I could write always. So then I started writing lyrics and writing lyrics and writing lyrics. And so it's around that, maybe middle 20s, that I kind of got the idea that I thought I might like to do an album,
Yeah.
In those days, you didn't just run up to your Mac computer. You had to go to a studio, and you had to have money to go to a studio. And as I told you, I was, my family wasn't rich. My dad left the family when I was 14. He and my mother just weren't getting along. So from where was I? So from that point, around my middle 20s, I started, got some money to do some demos at a studio, and that kind of got me started with it.
So you mentioned like that the music suddenly sounded different when you returned. That's like Gary Lewis and the Playboys, like he got drafted into Vietnam, and then it suddenly changed within like even a year and a half of him being gone. And he wasn't as big, he wasn't a success anymore. Like it went more into a more psychedelic sound, and he wasn't ready for that. And he tried to experiment with that stuff, and and unfortunately he got messed up with drugs at that time too. I think he had started using it in Vietnam, and it just went downhill for him for quite a few years after that.
I liked his stuff. I liked his voice, and I liked the sound of his band. It was nice pop music. I didn't go to Vietnam. I never got any orders, and I was damn glad I didn't have to, But my hat's off to people that especially any combat veteran, my hat's off to them, regardless of what war it was. So sad, this latest thing in Afghanistan, people not being able to get out and whatnot. My God, so sad. But the music was different. And when I came out, I was about 25, 26, 28. And then I tried a few bands, and they really kind of didn't work out. But there was too many bands is really what it was. Everybody and his uncle wanted to be in a band in the 70s,
Yeah.
But I tried a few things, and then I made a few demos at studios and whatnot, and it just seemed like nothing much was. I always had my hand in it. I was always jamming with my friend. There was always jams you could go to and this and that, but I always kept my hand in it. But then as I got older and older, it turned out that the digital thing came in. So now you could record your studio, your stuff. I still wasn't going to do it myself, but I did my first thing on an ADAT tape, and I took that to a studio guy who knew what he was doing, and that became this. So that was 2002 by the time I actually got something with my face on it. But I had kept my hand in it all that time, jams and bands and trying to do this and trying to do that. Bands are a hard thing because it's like families at Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
Everybody's related, and everybody gets along, and then you have a drink, and then everybody's fighting. So it's kind of like that. But go ahead.
How long does it take you to like write a song? Does it like just vary? Because I mean, I know some songs for some people take years and years, and then some are just like an overnight, within hours thing. Like it just.
It's a funny thing. My early ones started out as lyrics a lot of times. I just would get a lyric idea, and then I'd go back to it later on and put chords on. My song "Pictures of Libby," I had this thing in my head: "Pictures of Libby, pictures of Libby, staring down at me from a shelf." That's all I had, but it stayed there in my head. I got to do something with this. So I sat down with my guitar, and I got the refrain, and then that suggested the rest of it. Why would this guy be looking at pictures of Libby? And what does this mean? Well, he's looking at pictures of Libby, and his wife left him with another guy, and he's drinking beer, and he's got a comedic outlook on it. He's not really, crying in his beer. He's drinking his beer, but he's not crying in it.
Yeah.
So some of them come like that, boom, and some of them are more of a longer thing. I never get a song when I sit down. I go, well, I'll write a song. I'll write. No, it doesn't happen. They come to me. I can't make them come.
Yeah. They're like, I'm gonna do this right now. Like, it just has to seep into your brain. It's kind of like I'm a dance choreographer. Sometimes it just comes. And
Yeah, I've seen your stuff. You've got nice moves.
yeah, like, oh, thank you. Like sometimes, I mean,
Don't
when
get upset.
it's down,
I'm not Chris Matthews. Don't get upset.
when it's down to the wire, though, like sometimes it's like I must put something together, though. So I mean, it depends if you're on a deadline, obviously, but yeah.
Mhm.
Normally I just let it flow. So like I think all creative people do anyway.
One quick thing.
Yeah.
Chris Matthews, I was just kidding. Don't get upset. I bought your book, Chris.
Hardball with Chris Matthews.
I used to love the howl thing he did.
Isn't he gone now?
Yeah, he's off the show.
He's
He's
gone.
not gone. He's still alive.
Yeah.
He wrote a book. A lot of those guys, it's just the things that some of them do are worse than others. I think I don't know exactly what Chris Matthews would have done or wouldn't have done, but as an older guy myself, I can tell you that things 50 years ago were different than today. And probably for the best. But you could say and do things 50 years ago that you can't now as a guy. I think some of these guys just revert and forget and go back to those days. And those days are gone. You have to wise up.
Yeah, it's weird when people hold these artists to a different standard, like just today's standards, when they live, like Charlie Chaplin, for instance. They're like criticizing him for the people that he married and like what their age was, but that was common back then. Like in Victorian, he was a Victorian man, like from that era, and that was common to marry people at like 15, 16, 17 years old. So that's why
in those days. Go ahead.
That's why, like, we have these laws where it's legal to marry at 16 years old some places. Jerry Lee Lewis, of course, it also that bothers me. Like whenever he and Jerry Lewis are like confused.
Yeah.
I see it all the time, and people are like, he's a pedophile. Like, first of all, that other thing, the cousin marrying thing is a whole other thing. And yes, 13 was wrong. So, Jerry Lewis himself was just like, get me away. He almost sued Jerry Lee Lewis because he didn't want to be associated with his name. So I have articles about that, like at the time, where he was like, I don't want to be mixed up with this kissing cousin or whatever.
Yeah. That's a sad thing when your name is like, well, with the Paul Wilbur, I went through it with Paul Wilbur, with another Paul Wilbur. So when somebody else says your name, that's kind of a can be an unpleasant thing.
Yeah.
But I watch Bill Maher a lot, and Bill Maher goes into this thing about woke people, and I'm kind of not woke. I like to sleep late. But I can understand that the times have changed for the better, especially for women, for the better, and I'm all for that. But to hold somebody accountable from, like you were saying, Charlie Chaplin way back when. Al Franken was kicked out of the Senate because he did a comedy photo of a woman. Supposedly he had his hands around her breast. Now, I don't know if he was even making contact in the photo. And
Yeah.
even if he was, that was a comedy photo. He was a comedian at the time. He wasn't a senator.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe it was in bad taste, but you know, nobody's perfect in this life. And the guy was a good senator, I thought. And I think it's sad that people, like you say, get held to a standard from stuff that they did 40, 50, or even 20 years ago. You know, times change. But
Yeah, it's also well, obviously everybody getting canceled. That's canceled. Like, but for both, like both sides, I guess, political sides are canceling each other. Like, you know, just anything that's vaguely, you know, offensive, you know,
Yeah.
like, or you just can't say anything. So that I disagree with, but yeah, it just depends on the thing, basically. So I'll bring up Jerry Lewis again. Like people getting upset about him, like with the female comedians comment. I'm not sure if you've heard that, where he was like saying that, you know, seeing female comedians set him back a bit because of how he viewed women. But basically, like, he clarified that later on by saying it was like the gross out comedy, you know, like films like Bridesmaids, or, you know, those types of movies that were in recent years. You know, like Carol Burnett, he's fine with. You know, he loves Carol Burnett, and you know, he loved a lot of female comedians. Whoopi Goldberg, Ellen DeGeneres. I don't like Ellen, but like he liked her, and I think he even liked Tina Fey. So it's just, you know, I think some of those comments he made just to stir up trouble, but you know, people were like, "How dare he? He's canceled, basically." Like, we're not fans anymore.
He was a man of his times, like all these folks from way back when, and he was the best. He was the best side comedian ever, I think. You know, good side comedians, and some of them were female, like Carol Burnett. Lucy was a great side comedian. Laverne and Shirley, I can't think of Laverne, like, what's her name? Penny Marshall.
Yeah.
And there was some good side comedians, a lot of them, not a lot of them, but some of them. But I always thought Jerry was the best. He could just be that nut anytime he wanted to, you know. That guy doing that stuff. Okay, Lee. Don't holler.
What do you think, bringing up like people that are in trouble currently? Bob Dylan out of nowhere. I don't know what the circumstances are. Did you hear that about Bob Dylan being like,
what did he do?
Some underage person that was, well, this was in the early 60s, some underage person at that time was friends with him. He was an adult, of course. And they're saying that he befriended her and they formed a close relationship, and that went inappropriate. And, you know, I don't know if they're saying he's sexually assaulted them, or it was consensual and she was still underage, or what exactly. But now she's like suing him 50, 60 years later.
That's another thing. I mean, it's a serious issue, sexual abuse and underage and all of that. But, you know, why wait 50, 60 years? You know what I mean? Or, you know, who knows what happened 50, 60 years ago? Who knows? Who can prove that now? You know, I just think, you know, to go back that far, how are you going to prove it or disprove it? So I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of why they have a statute of limitations.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, you just can't prove it. I mean, like, it doesn't mean it didn't happen, but it doesn't mean that it did happen, and you just can't.
Right. And not to what's the word I want? Not to not to speak apparently. Not to defend people that are into that, but in that period of time, bands, a lot of bands had what was called groupies, which were young women, not kids, young women, 16, 17, 18, that would follow the band and often would be friends with the band and party with the band and et cetera, with the band. And it was just, I don't say I was involved in that, but it's, it was just a different time, just such a different time. A lot of things were wide open that aren't wide open now. Doesn't mean they were right, but but to go 60 years and say Bob Dylan, who could prove that? You know, my God, I just don't think it's a valid thing.
Yeah, and like also, like some women or girls, I guess, like, you know, a 17-year-old like looked like 24 or something. Like if you look at Ava Gardner, for instance, like if you like, she was like 17 going on like
30.
well, like no, well, I guess there was one picture of her being 16, and she like looked like a full grown woman, like in her 20s. Like she looks older than me now. Like she just like so, like, you know, and it's same with Elizabeth Taylor or whatever. Like, you know, there was a
Marilyn Monroe. Ever see young pictures of Marilyn Monroe?
Yeah. And then there was like another. There's a friend on Facebook I have who also knew Jerry Lewis, and you know, I saw a picture of her as a 16-year-old, like she was in a beauty competition, and like it was supposed to be for like 18 years old and above, but I think she like snuck in or something. But like she looked like she was in her 20s, and she looks, you know, like she looked gorgeous, but you know, she was underage.
Exactly.
So, you know, it's I can see how if people are lying about their age, that was a possibility too. And you know, that, you know, I'm sure that happened, like that somebody
I think there was a couple of things going on. One, there were, you know, young women, what I would call young women, who probably did lie. But then there was a lot of guys who just didn't want to know, you know. So both of those things were in play, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
That period during this late 60s, early 70s, it was just a wide open period.
Yeah, and people like are, you know, now accusing Elvis, even though, you know, he married Priscilla.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, they were friends for a while. I mean, it's kind of hard to judge. I mean, she has differing stories, I feel, like of how, like what exactly happened, and if anything inappropriate happened. And now some people would consider what he was doing grooming for, you know.
I think a lot of people come back years later and they realize they can get some play out of this. I'm not saying she did, but I think some people do, you know, they attach themselves to the celebrity name and, oh, well, you know what he did? And now there's a book, you know. I think people do that. I'm not saying she did, but I think there are people who do that. I just think, as I said, nobody knows what anybody did while he was alive, 40, 50 years, nobody knows.
Yeah.
So she can say,
she kind of pursued him herself. So
well, yeah. And so did half the women in the country.
Yeah. I mean, her family let her go live over there. So
they knew it. They knew that she was going to be with him and whatnot. But I just think in general, you know, to go back and say this happened and that happened 40, 50 years ago, it just doesn't, it's nothing you could prove or disprove. So I wish they wouldn't do it, actually.
Yeah. Was Elvis influence on you as an artist?
Yeah, well, the Everlys, the Beatles, Stones. Then when the Beatles broke up, there was like this void, you know. I think it was 1969. It was like the Beatles are gone. The Beatles, what are we going to do now? Along came Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Crosby, Stills, and Nash had the vocal harmonies. They had all been in popular bands prior to that, and they were all songwriters,
Yeah.
good songwriters as well. So that I still am a fan of that band, but that kind of filled the void for me for quite a few years. And I've always been a Bee Gees fan. I love the Bee Gees harmonies. So great.
Oh, yes.
To
Definitely.
this day. I wasn't a big fan of the disco period. I didn't dislike it when it was on the radio. I didn't turn it off. But what I was really a fan of was the early stuff. Robin Gibb, who has passed away, of course, he just had this poignant, heartfelt, soulful voice. It almost make you cry just listening,
Yeah, definitely. Did you see the documentary on them on HBO Max?
I haven't yet. We have HBO. I don't know if we can get it. I'll have to ask my wife. No, I haven't seen it yet, but I'd like to.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a really great documentary, and I hadn't known that they burned disco records at the time, and
Yeah.
like they were just like smashing it. I'm like, that's just like terrible. Like I can't imagine of course they said that like they threw in things that they just wanted to throw in, so it wasn't even all disco. It was R&B or soul music, and it was just it was mostly discriminatory and just
Oh, I saw clips from that. I know what you're talking about. I saw a couple of clips from that thing that you mentioned, and it was. It's just. It was just so stupid in a way. I mean, if you like disco, go buy it, and if you don't. You like it. Sometimes you think it's gonna drive you insane. Better find someone to love you. Ain't it hard to be out in the cold? Hard to realize we're all growing old. Sometimes you don't feel brave or bold. You better find someone to love you.
What are your goals in the future? Like, are you planning to release another album or?
Hang on just a second. The radio show that you were associated with that you just left, what was the name of that?
Modern Retro Radio.
Modern Retro Radio. You want to know how I felt about that? Anybody that's playing my music these days, I'm all for. When I did the vinyl, I was afraid that if I did a CD or something, or if I sent the MP3 around, that it'd wind up like my last thing did on iTunes or something, and I wouldn't be getting anything back from it. But as it turned out, that went on for a while, and then COVID hit, and no one was buying the vinyls. And I just said to myself, I'm just going to send out the MP3s to any radio station that'll play it, because now I'm 72 years old. I've had some serious medical issues, not recently, but I have some ongoing medical problems and stuff, nothing that's going to kill me. But at this stage of the game, I have 17 or 18 of these albums left. And I've been sending them to like record shops for free, actually, just to say, hey, get what you can for this, because I don't want to be looking at them a year later, So if you want some free ones, Kaylee, let me know. I'll send you a few more. You can give me to your friends or whatever. But that 17 or 18 is going to be the last of that. I'm not pressing anymore. I didn't make any money from it. I had a website, and I wound up having to take that down because I couldn't afford to keep it going. what I'm trying to do now, and I guess I want to get this in, please leave this in the final cut.
Yes.
I want to get someone, a record company, a large record company like Sony or somebody that can afford to buy it, to just buy the rights. I want to sell the rights to this record to a record company. And I've been just like cold emailing. I sent out some letters the other day, cold letters, and nothing ever really happens with that. But you're sitting around and you're waiting, well, might as well try it,
Yeah.
Cost me a stamp, cost me an email. So I've been just trying crazy things. I'm in this thing called Taxi, where they send you things saying that they want a song like this or a song like that. So you send them the songs and then they send you a thing back saying it was rejected. So I don't know, I just don't know. But the last thing that I want to do is I want to, even a small independent record company, if they could afford to pay me, I want to sell the rights to a record company. Now, you were asking me about future things. I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to be recording anything else in the future. If anything, I'll do a little gig here or there, a little small thing. In my town, there's a woman that has a store, and she has a little enclave where I did a video. You can see it up on Facebook. It's a J.R. Wilbur Live, and I did it in this little store. Your friend recorded it, and I just did almost every song that I ever knew from way back in the day up until fairly recently, including a few of mine. And so what I'll be doing, if anything, is probably just going down there and playing a little gig there. The recording, unless somebody comes up to me and wants to do a tour or wants me to do something, I'll still do it. I mean, if somebody really wants me, but I can't be beating a dead horse anymore. I just can't do it.
Yeah. So like
Would you like more records?
Well, I'll have to check out, ask other people. Probably. Yeah, I'm sure. Actually, my friend in New York might want one.
Okay, if you have any friends that have turntables, if you let me know how many you might like and send me your mailing address again, and
Okay.
then I'll get a few out to you. I've got 16, 17, 18 left, and I'd be more than happy to give you a few. Where I'm at now at the moment is if somebody just has the record, just plays the record, then it wasn't a total loss.
Yeah.
So
do you think that you might record just a single, a one song type thing, or even a cover even?
There's gonna have to be a demand. Somebody's gonna have to say to me, Joe, we want you in the studio to do this. I'm not taking it out of my pocket. And incidentally, if you go to my Reverb Nation site,
yeah,
I have 4 covers up there.
Mm-hmm.
I did 4 covers. I did Heart of the Night by Poco. I did It Makes No Difference by the band. I did Memphis by Chuck Berry, and I did Stone Song, I can't think of the name of it. Slipping Away.
Mm-hmm.
Slipping Away by the Stones off of Steel Wheels album.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I heard that one. That was pretty good.
Oh, you heard my version?
Yeah.
Oh, where did you hear it? Did you go to the site?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's 3
Wait,
others.
wasn't it on the Reverb Nation or no?
No, it is. And when I say the site,
Yeah.
I mean the Reverb Nation. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard it there.
Oh, good. Glad you liked it.
Yeah, I heard, several of I think I listened to everything that was on there. The covers were pretty
You're
good.
the guy.
Huh?
I'm joking. Go ahead.
Yeah, the covers were pretty good.
Oh, good.
I mean, you could release, because you get paid. Do you get paid from Reverb Nation then?
What I have is a downloading deal with Reverb Nation, where if somebody downloads the songs, I get paid through PayPal. That hasn't happened yet. The covers, I don't have them downloadable. I bought some downloading rights for the 4 covers, but I haven't done anything as far as making them downloadable for money yet, because I don't want to put myself in any possible jeopardy. I just don't want it. I don't want Keith Richards getting mad at me. Don't get mad at me, Keith, please. So they're there. You can hear them for free, you know?
Yeah, I'm wondering about that because I made like mixes and stuff, and I'm like, if I upload that to like YouTube or something, or play it on a radio station, like, will I get in trouble, or like, who do I pay because it's a mix of two songs? So
Well, I bought for the 4 songs 100 downloads each song. Now, I don't know if that means I can download it to you and then you can download it 100 times. I just don't know. That's one of the reasons I didn't put, download for money on it. But if you think you like them, I'll put an MP3, attach it to an email and send it to you. Where my baby used to stay up all night long, made me cry, she done me wrong. Hurt my eyes open, that's no lie. Tables turning, now it's her turn to cry. Because I used to love her, but it's all over now. Because I used to love her, but it's all over now.
So you're like, your last album, like what genres are on there? Like what ideas did you have? And like, how did you choose the singers to work with?
Okay, well, if you look at the album cover,
A mood swing.
you see a guy sitting against the fence. It looks like a country album. That's just that's down the hill from where I live, and I had my wife take the picture, and I had that hat on because it was sunny. But it looks, if you look at that, it looks like a country album probably. But this country song is Pictures of Libby. That's a country novelty song. I have a song called Ponies on a Carousel, which is sort of a country influence. You Don't Own Me, just a ballad. Je n'amour is kind of a, Je n'amour and Happy Endings are nice songs because I had this guy named Mark Early play saxophone. And those saxophone parts are they really make those songs.
That was beautiful.
And so Happy Endings is kind of a jazzy, sad song. Can We Turn the Page? I had that on a previous CD, but as it got down to the end of this album, my wife and I were moving from Massachusetts to here in Kentucky. We had bought a home and we were in the process of doing that. So I threw on a couple of songs that had been on the CD to the Mood Swings album just to finish it off. The other one was Whatever Tomorrow Brings. Whatever Tomorrow Brings was kind of inspired by the 9/11 thing, and it took me a few years to write it. But it's an us and them song. In general, it's about the good guys and the bad guys. We like to consider ourselves to be the good guys, and I hope we are. But it's about keeping the bad guys out, whoever the bad guys might be. Won't let them in this town. It has kind of a country western, not country western, but kind of old movies sort of feel to it.
Yeah.
The good guys and the bad guys type of thing. Ain't It Hard is my blues song that I wrote probably in the 1970s, one of the first songs I wrote.
Oh wow.
I got this woman named Karen Ranieri, who is a very good vocalist, to do it. You Can or You Can't is an R&B song. Karen did that one as well. Do You, Don't You Want Me is the most recent song I wrote. I wrote that in 2018. And it's almost like a Linda Ronstadt type song. And Karen did that one as well. How did I get to meet them? Karen Ranieri was introduced to me by a gentleman that played keyboards on this album who passed away about a year or so later. His name was Ed Face Corman. And he was my Facebook friend, and he introduced me to her. And she was so good, I used her on 3 songs. Sharon DiFranzo was introduced to me by Greg Dan, who is the studio owner at Rockpile Recording in Rockport, Massachusetts. And he's also the drummer on these songs. And he plays other instruments as well. Mara Betancourt, I met her just through a Craigslist ad that I put up asking
Oh, wow.
for singers. She answered it. And the same thing with Robin Hardy Gross. She answered the same ad, and they came down, and we went down down in my cellar, and I took my guitar and played a couple of songs, and they were good. And I said, "Do you want to be on it?" They said, "Yeah." So they were on it. So that's, 2 were referrals and 2 I did out of an ad,
Wow, that's awesome.
and they were all great.
Now you're on an album.
Then she would scold me and refuse to hold me. Now she's up and gone with that guy. Got a picture right here and a bottle of beer. I wrote the song to spit in her eye. Pictures of Libby, staring down from the shelf. I get along much better with pictures of Libby than I ever did with Libby herself.
Like, what kind of locations do you usually play in?
Well, as I said, lately I haven't been doing very much at all. But when I was in bands as a young man, we would try to play the local bars and any place you could get a gig. And when I was in my first band, the Trees, we were kids, so we played high school dances and stuff. I played one time with the band called the Trees in a place called the Commodore Ballroom in Lowell, Massachusetts. It was they should have kept it as a historical landmark because everybody played there. The Doors played there. Just every big band of the time that you could think of played there.
That's awesome.
They took, but anyway, there was this local band there called Little John and the Sherwoods, and they had the local gig. So when a big band would come in, they would open for the big band. Well, when there was no big band, they were the big band. So they decided they'd have little local bands open for them. And one time I got to play on that stage.
Ooh.
So cool. One of the best memories of my life as a musician.
Yeah, for sure.
Commodore Ballroom. Hello, Little John Harrington. How you doing? Little John Harrington. Called him Little John. His name was John Harrington. He's still around. He's my Facebook friend. But he's kind of a short guy, maybe 5'4" or something, 5'5". So he got the nickname Little John. But boy, his talent was big, and still he could just he was just all over that guitar. He should have been. I think he really should have made it big. He just should have. But one of those people that had the talent but didn't go farther than as far as he probably should have. But we opened for Little John and the Sherwoods at the Commodore Ballroom in Lowell. It's one of my fondest memories. But that was the only really big time thing that I did.
Was that really nice stage and stuff?
It was a nice stage, and you could get maybe trying to think how many people you could get. Maybe 500-600 people in. It was an old time ballroom. They used to do ballroom dancing in the place. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So it was constructed in the 1920s, I think, right?
Yeah, sounds about right.
For bands that would do that, that Lotto and stuff, that. So that was still there, and when all that went out, they went over to rock and roll. So it's so sad they took it down because it really should have been a landmark.
Yeah, I mean, and as old as it was, like preserve it and stuff.
Yeah,
when did it get torn down?
I want to say maybe 20 years ago. It went over to it had been a place where there was just music and there was no liquor. They would serve you Cokes and stuff. So high school kids would go and watch the bands and whatnot. I went myself, as a spectator quite a bit. But then in the 1970s, they decided to go over to a place where they would serve liquor. And then when that happened, it seemed like there was fights, and somebody, I think, actually got killed up in front of the place. Oh. And then they decided to just take it down, which was sad. Sad thing. Not only that a person got killed, but that the Commodore was taken down.
Yeah, it's sad when.
Go ahead.
It's sad when, such history, just goes downhill, like such historical landmarks, just go downhill, like Hollywood, for instance. There's like, it's just a trash heap
Yeah,
now, the
yeah,
actual Hollywood. Like you try to go to well, there used to be better hotels than that, like around, and it's the Walk of Fame in Hollywood, but there's like brawling in the streets, drug addicts, and all.
yeah.
I'm sure prostitution too, and all sorts of, crazy things. Like it's sad because that's not what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, well, you know what? The whole country is just way different than it used to be, and I wrote a song called America is Over Now, which was on my Prove Me Wrong. America is Over Now, Prove Me Wrong, which was on my Think CD. This one,
Mhm.
that's the one that's up on iTunes that you can get for free.
Mhm.
Spotify, excuse me, not iTunes, but Spotify. And it was some of those songs that I put on that album were just, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have even recorded them, but it was how I was feeling at the time. And I've never really cared much about what the trends were, what was selling, this and that. I just wanted to express myself as an artist in the moment, and I did that. But the song goes into what America used to be in my own eyes as an artist, and what it's become lately. And
Yeah.
a lot of it isn't good,
And I'm sure it changed even since whenever you wrote it, like it gotten worse probably.
Well, all of this, two camps, there's like two political camps that just seem to color everything, and I just, we got to get back to, there's a song on Mood Swings, which was also on, is it? Yeah, it was also on Think, called Can We Turn the Page?
Oh yeah.
And that's how I feel lately. I mean, we have to find the road we can walk on. We can't be in these two camps forever, because while we're hassling it out, the two camps, someone's going to come along and take us over.
Mhm.
That could happen,
Yeah.
So we got to turn the page. We got to find the road we can all walk on. We got to realize we have differences. You got to realize somebody's religion is different from yours, and respect their right to have that religion, even if you don't agree with it. I consider myself to be agnostic, which is not atheist, because I might be wrong. In a way, I hope I am.
Yeah.
I'm 72. If I hit both my mother and dad died at 83, so if that's going to be the yardstick, I got about 11 years. So I hope there's something beyond this, but I think biology is the religion. Biology puts us here, biology takes us out. And all we know that we have is just that time in between birth and death. So we got to find the road we can all walk on together and be respectful of each other. And that's my sermon from today by J.R. Wilbur. Don't forget to send money to J.R. Wilbur Sermons.
People,
Haley.
let's talk about Jerry. Let's talk about Jerry. I don't think, I know you told me slightly before we started recording, but how were you introduced to Jerry Lewis as a child?
Well, my dad, who I sent you a picture of,
Mhm.
who landed a Higgins boat on D-Day when he was 18 years old. I always
Wow.
say that because I'm proud of it. But he was a Jerry Lewis fan, and Jerry was his age. They were born the same year, 1926.
Mhm.
So he would take me to the movies. My dad and I went to the movies a lot. And from the very first time I saw Jerry Lewis, I said, I want to be that guy. I want to act like that guy. I want to fool around, goof around.
Mhm.
Got me in trouble in school sometimes. So I loved his comedy. He would just do funny stuff. He didn't even have to say anything. He would just do faces and all kinds of crazy stuff. And so I was always a fan. Did you used to? You must have watched the telethons, right?
Yeah, so I did off like a little bit. I wasn't a fan until I was 21.
Yeah.
So, I had seen him when I was like 5 years old, like on the TV show Mad About You.
Mhm.
And I saw him tap dancing, and my mom's like, "That's Jerry Lewis." So, but then
So you-
like, I don't think I saw his movies weren't playing on like, well, it was AMC back. We didn't have TCM until
Right.
the 2000s, and even then, like, they didn't play him too often. I feel now they play him a lot more than when I was a child, like, on not HBO, but there's like Stars had specials for him
Mhm.
for a few years, and then of course they had the Method to the Madness of Jerry Lewis special documentary that they put out, and then like there was a Cineplex. It's been a long time since I've had certain channels. So there's like a certain channels that would have him that were on cable. And now on like Roku, which is like a TV, off cable device, uh,
Yeah.
they have it like Pluto TV has him, Tubi,
Mhm.
different places have his movies. So that's good at least. But like, TCM like rarely played him, and like they, didn't have access. They would like play the same ones over and over again. But
Yeah.
basically, like, I saw Cinderella when I was
I-
like in my teens,
Yeah.
and my mom showed me that, like, and like I was like, it was just so different from any other comedy that I watched. And like I had grown up with Bob Hope.
Mhm.
Um, so it was just, a lot different than like other movies I had seen. Because I'm an old Hollywood fan. I love all the old Hollywood movies. I've seen a ton, but
Mhm.
he was just unique for that time. And honestly, even today, he's still unique in the movies that he made. And some of the Martin and Lewis ones, I mean, like the service comedies, like they're similar to other, comedy team service comedies. I
Yeah.
mean, they're still different, of course, in their own way, but those ones followed a formula for the
Right.
most part, or were remakes. But Jerry Lewis's own solo movies, or the ones he made with Frank Tashlin, those are pretty unique, I would say. And Rockabye Baby is my favorite one, with him taking care of all the babies, and just it just presented men in a different way
Right.
that you would see later on with
That was unique for its time.
with Kramer versus Kramer or Mr. Mom, and it was just a unique way. Like, that movie was a remake actually, but the original doesn't really go in that direction. Like, Jerry's character, Clayton Poole, is, he's just very, very sweet and caring, and he wants to do everything he can to take care of these babies
Yeah.
and, all these different jobs. And he's just like, he's like saying, I can do everything that a woman can do. And people are like in shock, like, oh, how dare
Yeah.
you say that in the courtroom or wherever, when he's trying to get, keep the babies anyway.
Right.
So that's my favorite one. Of course, like the Night Professor and the Geisha Boy and
Boing,
Cinderella. What are some of your favorite ones?
boing, boing.
Boing boing, yeah. Oh, I was going to we're supposed to the Total Film Critic episodes are on delay right now because we can't get together. So this is the Total Film Critic
Uh-huh.
show. Um, but like we're supposed to do an episode with Rockabye Baby, Boing Boing, and his one of his last directed film. Actually, it's his last directed film, Smorgasbord or Cracking Up.
So that you, that total film critic is you?
Get that off there. Yes, the Total Film Critic is now me. Plus my friends Ben
Where? Is that a web thing?
It's so we started off as a podcast and on YouTube.
Yep.
We did, so it was Audie who was the director of Modern Retro Radio, and
Mhm.
my friend Thad. Both are not going to be able to do it anymore.
Yep.
But so I've taken over as host, and that was my design there with
Mhm.
the logos and everything, and the production has always been me. So it's mostly been my show, all like all
So
along with the amount of work I've put into it. But yeah, so like now I'm the host, and I have my two friends that are going to be doing the show with me, but I'm also doing the solo shows. So my
so
first, sorry.
so it's okay. So it'll be back up on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube right now, so you can see the
Okay, but
first.
I can get YouTube on my TV, but I have to have my wife help me. I
Okay.
have to have my wife help me with everything computer oriented.
Or you could get it. I mean, do you have YouTube on your phone?
I don't have that type of phone. I have an old flip phone, but
Okay.
we are able to get YouTube on the TV because I got my YouTube channel one night and I had her do it, but I have to have her help me, but I can't do it. So when
Yeah.
I'm looking for you, I'm looking for, what's the name of it again?
So the Total Film Critic, I'll send you the link too. So
Okay.
it-
Total Film Critic. Okay. Next time we're on the YouTube, I'll ask my wife to help me get on there.
yeah. Or do you have it on your laptop?
I
Or
suppose
I
I could
mean,
get,
or desktop to computer or whatever you have.
I'm on a Mac, MacBook Pro, but I kind of don't like to watch too much on the computer because if you're on there too much, it works on your eyes. I'd rather watch it on my TV, but we can get it on my TV. So we'll go looking for it one of these times.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've done
Okay.
3 episodes. Yeah. We've done 3 episodes. Our last one was Anti-Mame. We did that old film with Rosalind Russell, and then we did a newer film with The Hebrew Hammer, which was a really funny movie. And we've done The Naked Prey, which was Cornell Wilde, the kind of adventure movie.
You love those movies. Yeah, she probably get it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mostly we're gonna probably do, I mean, at least a good majority of older films. Like my upcoming one is Planet of the Apes from 19.
Oh yeah, I love that movie. I saw that in the movie theater when I was a kid. Well, not a kid. I was like 19, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I've loved that one since I was little, and I feel like I just recently understood the political content of the story, though. The underlying, the underlying metaphors and what it all means. So I go into that. But yeah, so oh yeah, Boing Boing. So why is that your favorite?
I don't know. I just enjoyed the character he played in that one.
See, a lot of
But-
a lot of Jerry Lewis fans don't usually like that because he played a different character.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know how I could just put it into words. I like all his movies really.
Yeah.
But that one comes to mind.
Yeah, like people, there was, okay, so we'll talk about this on the Total Film Critic, but there was feuding on the set between him and Tony Curtis. They used to be friends.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but like then they
That's the thing I liked about it is they were both in it, and was that interplay between the both of them, rather than him just being that nutty character all the way through it.
Yeah, it was more like his first
Exactly.
adult character.
Yeah, he did some good acting in it. He wasn't just being the kid.
Yeah, and he didn't like it. He didn't like that role. I don't understand, but
I know. Do you remember the movie that he was in the Navy? I saw this one with my dad, and he I can't think of the name of the.
the Don't Give Up the Ship.
Yeah, that was it. And he lost the ship,
Yeah.
and it was this thing where he got attracted to this woman, this ensign.
Uh-huh.
Her name was Ensign.
Yeah.
Ensign Benson. I love Ensign Benson. She's an ensign. Her name's Benson. Oh, she's so good. Oh, she's so good. Oh, I love her.
Oh, you know what? I love the part. Do you remember the part where he like his cake fell into the guy's hat, and he has to like it's at the very beginning of the movie, and he has to like throw like it's a top hat.
Yeah.
So he was at the wedding, at his own wedding, and he like pushes like it. He's trying to like get the cake out without the guy noticing it because it was behind his back.
Yeah.
And so he popped the top hat up just to like so he could catch the cake, but instead the cake launched onto the man's head. And I don't think that was planned, because like people were really surprised. Like you could see the extras in the background just burst out laughing.
How could you ever get that right? You couldn't plan that, right?
Yeah, you can't plan like, and he looks surprised himself. He's like, well, like he looks like he's holding in laughter right there. And then,
Jimmy practiced that for about 6 weeks, hitting the hat. Yeah. No, that didn't happen.
I mean, he did practice like in the Patsy movie, like he did practice like catching the vases and stuff. Like, but I don't think you can plan the cake launching thing. I think that's a little bit different. So
I think that was probably luck.
that's one of my favorite scenes in that. And then when he gets captured, and like he's just sweating it out in the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he's like, because he's supposed to surrender, or he tells them that they lost the war and they have to surrender. And they're like, who won? Like they're threatening him with the sword, and then they give him like he's under sleep deprivation, and like before they're supposed to execute him, he just like falls asleep. And they're just like and luckily they're like, American Sailor Boy, like wake up, American Sailor Boy, you're free to go now, basically. So I don't know, that one's just very underrated to me. Not a lot of people talk about that one.
I saw that one with my dad, and my dad had been in the Navy, so he got a big kick out of that. I love the Ensign Benson thing that he did. I think back on that. Ensign Benson, he was really attracted to Ensign Benson. Well, listen, what else do you need?
I guess I could ask this. So Sailor.
I enjoyed talking with you.
You mentioned the Navy thing. Did you see Sailor Beware with him? Because I've heard that one was like pretty accurate with being in the Navy too.
I had not seen that one. Sailor Beware.
Yeah, you need to
look
see
at
that. Yeah, it's the Martin and Lewis one.
Oh, I'm sure I saw it. Yeah. I did. Yeah, I know I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So they're sailors, and then they have to meet. He's allergic. Jerry's allergic to girls. His name is Melvin Jones, and he's allergic to girls. And like he breaks out in a rash, or like not a rash. It's his throat closes up whenever he is around a girl with makeup or whatever. So he like his thing is to kiss a lot of women and build up an immunity, basically. But I've heard that movie has like a really good like depiction of the Navy, and they kind of use like real scenes of them being in the submarine and going underwater and stuff.
I'm sure I saw that with my dad, but it's so long and there's so much water over the dam now that I just remember just maybe a basic flash of it, But,
you need to see it again. I will send you. I think it's probably on YouTube. So
put that up on your YouTube channel.
Yeah,
it's one of the movies.
I might get in trouble for. I do have That's My Boy though, so that's the one where he's in. He's like Dean's the football player, and Jerry's like obviously a very skinny fellow that is sickly, and he's like his dad is the football. He was basically a football hero at the college, and so his son turned out the total opposite, And so
Mhm.
he's kind of disappointed in him. And, Jerry's character is trying to live up to his dad. So, I mean,
Right.
eventually he saves the day in a football game, but he's still like a really skinny,
I
like,
think that's maybe one that got by me. So if you put that one up, I'd be happy to see
I
that.
do have that one up on my channel. I don't have the Sailor Beware one. I can probably give you the link though. I think it's on YouTube. So,
I'll just watch it. I'll watch it on your thing.
but I might get in trouble with copyrights.
You said you already had it up there.
No, not Sailor Beware. The
Oh.
football one I do. That's my boy.
Oh, all right. Then I'll go looking for the Sailor Beware.
Okay.
Oh, if anybody has any type of connection to a record company, somebody that would buy the rights, that's what I'm looking for at this point. I
Yeah.
want to buy the rights to the record because I'm not a record company and I'm not going to be selling records.
Are
and I
you
don't-
are you gonna do like any contact with other online radio stations or
well, probably not
not
because I'm not.
online, just the regular mainstream radio stations, not mainstream, but like ones that might play certain songs, based on the genre of the station.
I've done some of that, and I've got the occasional person here or there will play it. Trying to think of the guy, retro, what to do? No, not retro. Star Power Radio plays it a lot, but I haven't been really trying to get radio stations to play it that much anymore. If you know of anybody that you think might play it, let me know and I'll get it to them. The thing is, I'm not selling the product anymore, but I still would like people to go to the Reverb Nation and hear it, possibly download it. They can be downloaded for, I think it's $1.29 per song, but you don't have to download it. You can hear it at Reverb Nation for free. And the main thing right now is I'm just trying to get it. I'm trying to get a record company interested in buying it, and they'll be the record company. They'll sell the record, and it'll be out of my hands. That's what I need to do. I can't be chasing this anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows? There might be someone on my radio show that will say, "Who's this fellow singing?"
Right. If someone's going to play it, let me know. And even if I can't listen, still have them play it. That's cool. All right.
So J.R. Wilbur's link to his Reverb Nation albums and all his like music content is on Reverb Nation. It'll be in the description. And thank you, J.R. Paul, whatever people want to call you.
Thank you, Kaylee. So nice talking to you. Let's do this again sometime, just for the heck of it. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Sounds good.
Bye-bye. Take care.
And bye.